Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
Pope Francis launches a new girls hockey program. I'm Caroline McGrath. I'll have the story coming up.
On the road to sainthood, the story of Father Michael McGivney, a model Catholic priest and founder of the Knights of Columbus. And Sowing the Seeds, the 2021 annual Catholic Appeal kicks off in the Diocese of Springfield. These stories are coming your way next on Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. With the start of Lent this past week, the 2021 annual Catholic Appeal also launched. This major diocesan fund drive helps to support 43 ministries and services across Western Massachusetts, including our Catholic communications work. Sowing the Seeds is the theme this year, and once again, we're called to serve Christ by serving others. As we financially support the ministries and community agencies of the Appeal, we spread God's love across all 4 counties of Western Massachusetts. Your dollars help families facing food insecurity for the first time because of the pandemic. Children in need of tutoring and educational support find it at the Homework House and the Gray House. College students find a home away from home at the Newman Center and at non-Catholic colleges. Campus ministry helps them to remain Catholic while in college. And especially over the past year, viewership of Reel to Reel and the Chalice of Salvation proved to be a vital connection to our Catholic faith.
Here are 5 reasons to support our annual Catholic Appeal. 1. Emergency assistance to those in need. 2. Inspiring young people to grow in their faith. 3. Keeping our homebound connected in faith. 4. Crisis help for young families. And 5. Catholic educations, forming our future leaders in mind and faith. We are sowing the seeds of God's love with your contribution. Please donate today online at diospringfield.org.
Joining me now to talk more about the specifics of this year's annual Catholic Appeal is Kathy Harrington, manager of the Appeal. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks for having me.
Kathy, let's talk about the theme this year because I think people will be interested in the message, Sowing the Seeds.
Well, as we considered this year's theme, we thought about our new bishop, Bishop Byrne, traveling throughout Western Massachusetts and how he is God's laborer, the one who, as he gets to know us, is sowing the seeds of God's love, sowing the seeds of our faith, and sowing the seeds of hope. We are sowing the seeds as well when we financially support the ministries that do God's work.
And each year, the Diocese of Springfield encourages those who are able to support the ACA. Why is this so important?
That's a very good question. Participation helps people who never before needed to use a food pantry, but because of the pandemic, they are in line for food now. You help families who are struggling. You help women who are in crisis with an unexpected pregnancy to choose life and then receive food help and diaper help and emotional support so that having chosen life, she can succeed as a mother. Your support of Catholic education and the efforts at every parish to teach about our faith, and because of that, you help those who are hearing the call from God to the priesthood or religious life to answer yes. You also help the homeless and the dying. You help college students to continue growing in their faith while away from home. Your support brings our Catholic faith beyond prison bars and then helps people to transition into a productive life after prison or after rehab. It's important to financially support these ministries and community agencies because our practice of the Catholic faith doesn't end when we walk out of Mass. That's really when it begins, when we put our faith into action and become the hands and feet of Christ on earth. And it's who we are, and we should not be afraid to let the world see that that is what it is to be Catholic.
So for folks who want to contribute, how are they able to do so?
There are several ways to donate. You can use the envelope that you received in the mail or at church, or by going online to diospringfield.org/ACA, or by calling my office, 413-452-0630, and I can help you.
All right, Kathy Harrington, manager of the annual Catholic Appeal. I hope the seeds that are sown this year fall into fertile ground and grow strong roots.
Thank you.
And again, you can learn more about the annual Catholic Appeal at diospringfield.org. Catholic Communications is once again glad to partner with Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield's annual Lenten series. The Lenten Speaker Series this year will go on in spite of the pandemic. To keep the faithful audience safe, changes were necessary, and it means that this year you can watch from home. Nick Morganelli brings us a preview.
With limited occupancy, social distancing, and mandatory face masks, Masses this Lenten season continue to be impacted by the COVID-19 virus.
Our pastoral council and evangelization team did have a discussion about whether it could be done safely in person, and we probably could have, but so many of the speakers, especially several of them were unique kind of speakers that we just didn't want to have to limit the attendance.
Instead, the series is being shared online for people to view at home.
This year's program, it focuses on the pandemic, and people are very tired of it, but I think from our perspective, we want to show that though it's been a challenging time for us, there's also many opportunities for hope and spiritual growth.
Acknowledging the current struggles, the speakers for Keeping Faith During the Pandemic, God's Got This, offer perspective and tools to help us through. And during the 6 weeks of Lent, help us realize there is joy in getting through this experience. First up on February 24th is our very own newly ordained and installed Bishop William Byrne.
I'm going to be sharing my 5 ways to find God in the pandemic because he does have this.
Returning this year with How to Overcome Anxiety and Depression is Gary Zemak on March 3rd.
On the night before he died, Jesus prayed in the garden to his Father. And in Mark's Gospel, we're told that he used the words, "Abba, Father, all things are possible for you." And then he went on to ask that the chalice, the cup of suffering, pass him by. But how did he end? Not as I will, but your will be done.
On March 10th, you'll meet Sister Bethany Madonna from the Sisters of Life, who uses humor to help us find meaning in our challenging isolation.
Sometimes we don't see the Father. This is the reality, though. Doesn't matter how incapable, twisted, unworthy, or far away you may feel. You are his beloved, and he holds you.
He's #1 on Apple's podcast rankings and chaplain of the Newman Center at the University of Minnesota in Duluth. Father Mike Schmitz joins us on week 4.
He never promised to deliver us from every snare and every pain and every wound and every grief and loss. He did promise something, though. He promised that in the midst of the grief and in the midst of the loss, in the midst of the pain, that he would be there.
Keeping and Deepening Faith During the Pandemic on March 17th. Quarantining and everyone staying at home. Can there be too much family time? Catholic Life Conference co-producer and mother of 6, April Hellenick, talks about turning all that togetherness into family bonding time. That's March 24th. Then on March 31st, Father Chris Alar delivers a message of God's mercy. In spite of these difficult times, the fears and suffering of the pandemic, there are graces for us on this journey, and there is joy ahead in the risen Lord. Father Alar will speak on the Wednesday of Holy Week. Tune in to YouTube and watch from the comfort of your home. The Lenten Speaker Series begins on February 24th. I'm Nick Morganelli.
As Nick mentioned, you can watch the Lenten series on the Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament YouTube page. There's a link in the parish Lenten listings at diospringfield.org. And I have the honor of hosting this week's first talk by our own Bishop Byrne. Still to come on Reel to Reel, the founder of the Knights of Columbus is one step closer to sainthood. And Carolee McGrath introduces us to the Pope Francis Prep girls hockey team. These stories are still ahead on Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passion's Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. We welcome Bishop William Byrne as our Mass presider and celebrate the first Sunday of Lent. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10 on 22 News, WWLP, and coming up next on Albany's Fox 23, WXXA.
Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
Butcher, baker, candlestick maker. I didn't care what they grew up to be, as long as they were happy. To give up marriage and children just seems like too much to walk away from.
He seems to think he's making a real difference in people's lives, and he's so happy. Isn't that what's most important?
I never would have imagined our son as a Catholic priest.
He's known by many titles: Protector of Widows and Orphans, Apostle of Fraternal Charity, Advocate for Immigrants and Families, and founder of the Knights of Columbus. His name? Father Michael McGivney. Steve Kiltonick has the story of this model parish priest and his journey to beatification on the road to sainthood.
On October 31st, 2020, Father Michael J. McGivney was beatified at the Cathedral of St. Joseph in Hartford. McGivney is the Humboldt parish priest who founded the Knights of Columbus in 1882. His beatification was the culmination of a 23-year journey since his cause for sainthood was launched in 1997 by Hartford Archbishop Daniel Cronin. McGivney's story begins in Waterbury, Connecticut, where he was born on August 12, 1852, to Patrick and Mary Lynch McGivney, the oldest of 13 children. The McGivneys emigrated from Ireland to escape the potato famine, which killed an estimated 1 million and forced another million to flee. Like many immigrants, Patrick found work as an iron molder at one of the many factories which sprang up in the Brass City.
If you wanted a job, Waterbury at the time was the place to come. The Industrial Revolution was at its beginnings.
Father James Sullivan is rector of the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception in Waterbury, which was McGivney's first parish. From an early age, McGivney was, by all accounts, an excellent student.
When he took his first exam at the East Main Street School, they found that he was so intelligent that he skipped the first 2 grades and actually graduated at the age of 13.
For many immigrants, the church became a second home, a refuge from the outside world where they faced discrimination and religious persecution in their daily lives. McGivney first expressed interest in the priesthood at age 12, inspired by the pastor of Immaculate Conception, Father Thomas Hendricken, his mentor who encouraged his vocation. But after graduation, and without his father's approval for the priesthood, McGivney took a job in a local brass spoon factory to help support the growing family.
So he grew up in this atmosphere of a loving family, a loving pastor, and a loving church. And that has a great effect on a person for life.
In 1868, after 3 years in the factory, McGivney traveled to Quebec's St. Hyacinthe Seminary to study for the priesthood. After 2 years, McGivney continued his studies at Our Lady of Angels Seminary in Niagara Falls and St. Marie College in Montreal, where he learned of his father's tragic death at the age of 48. McGivney returned home to support the family, which could no longer afford seminary tuition. However, Bishop Francis McFarland of Hartford saw much promise in the young McGivney and secured funding to continue his theological studies at St. Mary's Seminary in Baltimore for 4 years.
He was both quiet, prayerful, reserved, without being distant. And so he also had that warmth and that outgoing personality that kind of draws people.
Father McGivney was ordained in 1877 and celebrated his first Mass that Christmas Day at Immaculate Conception with his widowed mother and family present. McGivney's first assignment was at St. Mary's Parish in New Haven as the associate pastor. The small Catholic population here was highly immigrant. St. Mary's was built on Hill House Avenue, which was where many of the wealthiest Protestants lived.
The New York Times had a famous story talking about this, monstrosity on Hill House Avenue, this edifice that has now ruined a previously idyllic neighborhood that's going to bring in all of these poor Irish.
Father McGivney started to make an impact on the parish from the moment he arrived.
People talk about his face. They say he has a priest's face. They talk about his voice and that he had a great joy about him, but someone who, if he had to, could also flip and become very stern.
St. Mary's pastor, Father Murphy, was in ill health, and the energetic McGivney ran the parish, which faced serious financial debt. Father McGivney wanted to make the church the center of parishioners' lives. Many young Irishmen struggled with alcoholism.
So he founded essentially a temperance society to gather the young men together, and they would make a pledge, not a drop, ever.
McGivney also saw Catholic men being drawn away from their faith and to the dozens of secret societies. A pivotal moment in McGivney's life occurred when a successful Irish businessman, Edward Downes, died, leaving a widow and several children. His widow had to prove she had the financial means to care for her children, or they will be placed in an orphanage. She was short money for one child. In court, McGivney stood up and said he would arrange for guardianship of the young boy, thus preserving the family.
And that's when I think the gears really started churning in his mind that we need to start something that will allow every Catholic family to be able to be kept together.
Looking to solve these social problems, Father McGivney met in the basement of St. Mary's Church in the fall of 1881 with about 40 accomplished men of the parish. With McGivney's direction, they discussed the formation of a Catholic fraternal society run exclusively by laymen with the purpose of building up Catholic men as strong husbands, fathers, and faithful sons of the Church.
Father McGivney's founding principles were charity and unity. He wanted them to be united in a way that they could mutually support one another in the faith. Each man continued strong in the practice of his faith, and then was an example and a support for the others. But also charity, mutually supportive of their community and their parish.
By taking the name Columbus, who at that time was absolutely seen as this heroic figure of American history, it was a way of kind of communicating we are Americans and we are loyal Americans.
On March 29, 1882, the charter for the Knights of Columbus was approved, and a month later, the first Knights of Columbus Council was formed. By the time McGivney left St. Mary's in 1884 and was reassigned as pastor of St. Thomas Church in Thomaston, nearly 30 councils were formed across the state. In December 1889, Father McGivney fell ill during the Russian or Asian flu pandemic, developed pneumonia, and never fully recovered. He died on August 14, 1890, 2 days after his 30th birthday. Pope Benedict XVI declared Father Michael McGivney venerable in 2008. In May 2020, a miracle attributed through the intercession of Father McGivney was approved by Pope Francis, opening the door to beatification. Mikey Schlackley, a child with a prenatal diagnosis of fetal hydrops, a rare, typically fatal condition, was miraculously healed in his mother's womb. A second approved miracle is now needed for Father McGivney to be canonized a saint. At the newly renamed Knights of Columbus's Blessed Michael McGivney Pilgrimage Center is the Father McGivney Gallery. Visitors here have the opportunity to learn about the McGivney legacy and the pivotal moments in McGivney's life. Artifacts from his days as a priest at St. Mary's and St. Thomas are on display. Also on display are the vestments McGivney wore when his body was exhumed and moved in 1982 from Waterbury to St. Mary's on the 100th anniversary of the Knight's founding. Today, the granite sarcophagus serves as the focal point for the many pilgrims who travel from across America to pray for the intercession of Father McGivney. Inside the complex at the Basilica of the Immaculate Conception is the Father McGivney Parlor. Father Sullivan, who has a strong devotion to Father McGivney, explained the details of what he calls Waterbury's Sistine Chapel, which includes another native son, Navy Chaplain Thomas Conway.
Blessed Michael McGivney, dressed in white, sort of leading, pointing the way of Father Thomas Conway, leading him out of the Philippine Sea where he died, going down to the USS Indianapolis, and pointing the way to heaven.
The four pillars of the Knights of Columbus include an angel holding a heart symbolizing charity, an angel holding a chain symbolizing unity,
the two priests embracing each other, symbolic of fraternity, and an angel draped in the American flag, symbolic of patriotism.
Also depicted is the Knights of Columbus banner held by St. Michael the Archangel, the Holy Family, which was central to the life and mission of Father McGivney, and the image of the Holy Spirit moving from darkness into light. Monsignor John Bevins served as rector of the Basilica for 24 years. He's promoted Father McGivney's beatification cause for nearly 3 decades.
I was praying for myself to live just long enough to see him beatified. I said, now, Lord, you can take me.
Bevins and other Waterbury Catholics are very proud of Father McGivney because they consider him one of their own.
Here was somebody who walked these streets, who worked in factories here, whose family was raised here. This is somebody that we can really identify with.
Father Michael McGivney, the humble, compassionate, and model parish priest, a visionary who has left an indelible mark on 2 million Catholic men and their families across the globe. For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
Father Sullivan said the church hall at the Basilica will be converted into the Blessed Michael McGivney Parish Center. He hopes it will attract Catholics from across the state and beyond who want to learn more about Father McGivney's life story and connection to Waterbury. The goal is to have the center completed by August 12th, the day designated as the feast day of Father McGivney. And the Knights of Columbus are dedicated to pro-life outreach, including their ultrasound initiative, helping to raise funds for crisis pregnancy centers. During this Lent, a special Witness for Life event is taking place in the diocese. The 40 Days for Life, an international effort aiming to end abortion through prayer and fasting, community outreach, and peaceful vigils. The campaign began on Ash Wednesday and runs through March 28th. For more information, we have a link at diospringfield.org. And finally today, we introduce you to the new Pope Francis Preparatory School girls hockey team. The Cardinals, made up of players from all over Western Massachusetts, are not only lighting the lamp, but bonding as a team and family. Carolee McGrath reports.
It was a good win for Pope Francis girls varsity hockey, who faced off against Longmeadow on a recent afternoon at Smead Arena in Springfield. This is the first year for the Cardinals, and like the Longmeadow program, Pope Francis girls team is a co-op made up of students from Pope and other communities. Chris Connors, who played hockey all his life, is the coach.
Our program is it's a first-year program. We're on first-year program. We're on the rise. We have 8 girls that play for our school from Pope Francis, and we have the other 8 girls are from co-op schools all throughout Western Mass. Schools like Frontier Regional, Amherst Regional, Northampton, girls as far west as Pittsfield High School as well. It's primarily us in Longmeadow out here in Western Massachusetts, so it's a great opportunity for girls hockey out in this area. Out in the Boston area, there's a girls team pretty much in every community, so this is big.
Morgan Parrott's a junior at Pope Francis, is the team captain. You're the captain?
Yes.
You're a big shot.
I really, it was kind of a tough decision for me to transfer to Pope Francis because I was so close to everyone from my hometown. But I knew that in order to play hockey on a girls' team, I had to go there, and I wanted to better my academics and everything. And I think the school helps me with all of that.
Sarah Wright is a sophomore at Hopkins Academy in Hadley. She's been on skates since she was a little girl.
It's very fun to have a group of people that I know well and also been able to get to know better over the course of however many months. But it's very nice. It's a nice atmosphere that the coaches have brought and the girls have brought as well.
Since these girls are playing at a high level, it really gives them a great opportunity to be noticed by college coaches, as most of them want to play after they graduate.
I definitely get a lot more looks playing on this team than I would ever on the boys' team. And with the help of my coach, he helps me a lot with that too.
There's great visibility. We're playing in a top-notch league against teams proven teams like Shrewsbury High School, Algonquin, and even this year, outside of COVID, we were slated to play some of the Division I Catholic schools out in the Boston area, like Matignon Girls, Malden Catholic Girls, St. Mary's Girls. So the exposure that these girls that are getting, it's unbelievable.
And it's not just about hockey on the ice, but family, whether it's supporting each other or the hockey community. Coach Connors says prayer has always been part of the game for him.
All the years that I've coached, even out at Saugus High School and at St. Mary's and Lynn, I feel that it's a good time before the game to reflect and basically everybody get together, say a prayer. We felt it was very important to have a moment of silence for the young gentleman from Bishop Feehan that had a tragic injury this week.
The Pope Francis community, led by the boys hockey program, raised close to $14,000 to support AJ Quetta, who suffered a spinal cord injury in a tragic accident in a game against Pope Francis in January. I saw on the back of their shirts it said family. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's our motto. That's our slogan for our team. We're trying to build a culture here at Pope Francis. It's a team-oriented, family-first culture, and all the girls have embraced it. All the girls have bought in.
And even in the midst of a pandemic, the Lady Cardinals have taken off, putting pucks on net and building a program to be proud of. In Springfield, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And we wish the Cardinals great success on and off the ice. For this week, that's Reel to Reel. We thank you so much for watching today. Just a reminder, for the coming weeks of Lent, we have a list of Lenten activities on the diocesan website, diospringfield.org. You can also see Bishop William Burns' daily Lenten shorts, brief reflections to guide you on your Lenten journey. That's all found at diospringfield.org. Also be sure to follow the latest news of the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, on our news and information site, iobserve.org, and also on Facebook at Catholic Communications. I will see you right back here next week for another edition of Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Reel to Reel is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.